Welcome to another session of Business Startup Training. Today we'll be looking at the epidemic impact on businesses. This is presented by Accounting Lecture. By the end of this session, we'll have a better understanding of the epidemic impact on businesses. Our objectives are the pre-COVID-19 turnover profits on business, the post or current COVID-19 turnover profits or losses on businesses, future COVID-19 turnover profits or losses on businesses, what will the government help do, and then we will conclude. Let's first of all start with the turnover and the profits on businesses in the current situation. Now let's go through some basics. The core things we're going to look at here is sales, variable costs, fixed costs, and profit. Sales or turnover looks at the business selling goods. When the business sells goods, based on volume, it will get sales. Variable costs, in some instances, is a function of the units bought that we intend to sell, or some other cost-related driver that also is a function of sales, or operating related costs. And so that is variable costs. So it's normally a function of volume. And then we have fixed costs. This cost remains constant regardless of whether one produces or sells things. You have to pay this cost. It's normally constant for 1 year. And then we'll have profit. So those are the costs, the various elements in terms of the financial report. So let's have a look at the sales side of it first. Now the sales here, we will consider it to be 200,000. And this would be 200,000 per month. So each month, sales level generally before COVID-19 will be 200,000. Now we have variable costs of 30,000 and fixed costs of 120,000. It gives us profit of 50,000. Let's have a look at the sales of several businesses. So business 1 with sales of 200,000, business 2, 200,000, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with 200,000 gives us a size of the business community of 1,600,000. So with all these businesses, the business economy hypothetically in this example is 1,600,000. Now let's look at a scenario here that considers 500 businesses. Now if we have 500 businesses with 200,000 in sales each, it would be 100 million in sales. So that's in real terms what the government needs to protect. Variable cost would be 15 million, fixed cost 60 million, and therefore profit would be 25 million. So 25 million would be what the profit level that the business is expecting under normal circumstances, and 100 million in sales under normal circumstances. Now, over a 3-month period, the sales would have been 300 million and the profit would be 75 million if COVID-19 was not in the picture. Now, let's have a look at the turnover and profits in the situation post or with COVID-19 coming on board or in the picture. Sales now would be zero because the lockdown means that businesses in most instances cannot operate, which means they cannot sell goods, which means that there's nothing coming in. In some instances, variable cost, which is not a function of sales volume, would still occur. So we might have a situation where variable cost is at the similar level. And fixed cost is also at, is fixed, so therefore it will not change. But the government support coming on board will alleviate some of the strain on the fixed costs. But even with that scenario, we would have losses of 70,000. So with this current scenario of sales being zero, variable costs being 30,000, fixed costs 120,000, and the government support of 80,000, the loss is still 70,000. Now, if we were to extrapolate this for 500 businesses, that's 35 million. And for 3 months, that's 105 million in losses. Quite a substantial level of loss that is occurring or will be occurring if this lockdown continues for 3 months. Let's have a look at the government support of several businesses. So if it supports business number 1 with 80,000, and business number 2 with 80,000, business number 3 80,000, 4 80,000, 5 80,000, 6 80,000, 7 80,000, 8 80,000. Therefore, this all aggregates to 640,000 of government support, paying the employees' salary of these various businesses. And this is a hypothetical example. So this basically is coming from the government coffers, carving out a proportion of its borrowing, because it has to borrow this money to support businesses in terms of paying employees' salary. Now let's have a look into the future, and what does this look like? Now, after Corona lockdown stops or ceases, or a phased lockdown, whatever the scenario is, the sales level pre-Corona would not return immediately. So sales would be about 50,000, which is quarter of what it was. Previously it was 200,000 per month. Now it'll be about 50,000, so it's a quarter. And then we have variable costs of similar levels of slightly higher though, of 50,000. And then we will have fixed costs of 150,000. It gives us immediately losses of 150,000. So when the lockdown occurs, we'll have loss of 70,000. After the lockdown phases out, we'll have losses of 150,000, which means we have twice the loss that we would have had even with the lockdown, when the lockdown ceases. And the reason for this is because the government support will no longer exist. And when the government support no longer exists, it means that all the losses and financial gains, if there are any, will be borne by the business. But we can see that in this scenario, loss is more likely to be the situation for several businesses. And if we were to extrapolate this for 500 businesses, it would be 75 million in loss. And for 3 months, that's 225 million in losses, which is catastrophic. Now, in terms of, if we were to look at several businesses having a loss of 150,000, so business 1 have 150,000, reports 150,000 in loss. Business 2 reports 150,000 in loss. 3, 150,000 in loss. 4, 150,000 in loss. 5, 150,000 in loss. 6, 150,000 in loss. And 7, 150,000, and 8, 150,000 in loss. We would have loss altogether in this scenario of 1,200,000. Now, if we have these losses consistently occurring, this is what is going to happen. Business is going to start closing down. So one business closes down, another business closes down, another business closes down, another business closes down, and we would no longer have 8 businesses based on this scenario. We would have 4 businesses. So basically half of the business that now currently exists will no longer exist due to this epidemic impact. And this is what the future looks like. We're going to expect, this is what we may be expecting in months to come. Now, what will the government help do? Yes, the government help is supporting employees, but that is one of the costs. It's not the only cost. The business needs help with its fixed costs, which is other operating costs, and also other elements of its variable costs. Only supporting employees is one of it. It means that the business would need to find money from other source to actually support itself when it's zero sales. Now, it will help to ease the financial impact, but it may not necessarily solve all the problem. And the question is it too little? And due to the scale of this, we are yet to really understand and quantify the scale of this loss. So therefore, we do not necessarily know what the scenario is going to be like. And so therefore it's a bit challenging to predict, because experts are even themselves trying to crunch the numbers, and it is so astronomical they've given up calculating. But we can see, based on what is happening now, that is going to be a huge financial deluge that's going to come on board. We also see that businesses would need to find additional sources of financing, and we can expect that to be loans. Now, a lot of central banks right now are offering huge interest rate drops from near to zero to just above zero, thereabouts. And so therefore a lot of cheap money is being provided. Would that cheap money be fed into businesses? It's the major question, because the risk right now, who are the winners and who are the losers, we do not know. The market is going to dictate that. From historical information, pre-corona would not be able to give one a trajectory into what the future would look like, because the people's buying behavior will change subsequent to corona. Their concern and their driver, what drives them to buy things, will change. Their priorities will change. Their appetite for fun and excitement and luxury will change. And with those variables on board, one cannot fully predict how the market will respond in terms of the financing of these various businesses. Will the business be able to recoup their money? We do not know, because there are so many variables that will dictate. A lot of people are not able to travel. If travel does not return to the levels it were before, the hospitality industry, which is a huge industry from a lot of developed countries and developing economies, and therefore that is going to have huge impact in terms of